Happy Sunday. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another session of You Are Loved. My name is Cash and I'll be your host today. Session that I've started a while back, something I'm committed to doing. That is going live every Sunday, sharing whatever's on my heart, whatever I feel compelled to, whatever I feel led to. And today we are picking right back up in a book I've been reading and enjoying very much that my mother gave me for Christmas, called 1,000 Gifts. I Dare to Live Fully Right Where You Are by Ann Voskamp. So we're going to be jumping into that here in just a moment, and I am looking forward to it. Hey, Scout Squirrel, welcome back. I am doing well. How are you? Happy Sunday. We're going to be jumping into the book here very quickly because I know that I will probably run over given how long it takes to read some of these chapters. And I just noticed the spacing on the period after keys, and that really bugs me on the background of here. Take a look. You'll see what I'm talking about if this actually work. Here we go. Here, you see my, this. To me, the period should be right there. Totally got sidetracked just by seeing that. That really bugs me. It should be closer to the Y. Not a big deal, by any means. We're going to jump into the book really quick because I'm likely to go over. And I got sidetracked getting started. I got carried away. Marcus and I were hanging out, working on the map that I've been working on for ages now. But he was commenting on it. We were doing it together, and it was really good. Happy Sunday. You're feeling a little better now. Awesome. I'm happy to hear it. We'll be jumping right in here. And I believe it's chapter 7 that we're picking up on today. Here it is. That way, hopefully I don't run too much past 3 since I already got a little bit of a late start. There aren't too many more chapters left. So we got chapter 7 and... Whoa, hold on a second. We might... Okay, wait, chapter 7, chapter 8. Okay. It looked like chapter 7 and 8 were one. And I was like, we're going to be here a lot longer than I thought. But then, okay. Yeah, we've got a couple more Sundays left of this. But here we are. Chapter 7. Seeing Through the Glass. And let me turn down the music for myself. Should be good. Chapter 7. Nothing here below is profane for those who know how to see. This is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Not familiar, but that's the quote. Nothing here below is profane for those who know how to see. The last of the sunflowers stand tall in the kitchen garden right off the porch. It's early. Too early, really. The picket fence gate at the side of the garden lies open. I have scissors in hand and hopes for just a ring or two of fresh petals. In the house, empty vases line the counter. Emptiness opened wide for beauty filling. So I have gone looking, always looking. The finches, yellow on wing, flit among the high leaves. The ground is damp from the night dreams. I stretch high on the toes to reach a crowning sunflower. Perfect. A few lower ones, bowed, still new. I walk the rows of giants and I gather. My arms are wet with dew, full of summer. In the house, I trim stems, shear off lower leaves, fill the open vase mouths, and I arrange. I set the vases of the golden heads out, one on the side table by the window, another at the end of the hand-hewn mantle. Hey, Studicus, happy Sunday, dude. How are you doing, buddy? So good to see you. We're jumping right into it because these chapters are not short, and I already got a little bit of a late start, but it's so good to see you. How are ya? Happy Sunday. Beam from a barn that the school bus drove past all my childhood. I bring beauty in. I take to the last to the table, set its bouquet in the middle of the quilted runner of pinwheel stars that Mama stitched for my birthday. Thrifted cotton ginghams, old men's shirts, faded summer work. For a moment, I bend, fingering petals. Doing good, bro. I am doing great. It's good to see you. Had a really good morning with Marcus. We went and got breakfast. Finally, we were supposed to do it yesterday, but he decided to make himself breakfast literally as I was getting ready. After I already told him we were going out, he'd already poured milk, and due to that miscommunication, he said it's a learning experience, so he postponed it to today. We went out and got breakfast. It was good. And then got to hang out with him for a bit, and now I'm here. So it's like smooth sailing. Perfect. What do you got going on today, dude? Good to see you. I'm well. How are you? Good. All right. Let's see here. For a moment, I bend, fingering petals. I peer into a wide circle of sunflower, a mother searching a child's face. My boys come in from the barn. I lay out bread. They banter, hard, the brothers scrape. I stir orange juice, keep breathing, ask them to be kind. I brought the beauty in, and why now? Smash the vases. One of the boys tosses in slices of bread for toast, careless. Lots of homework, I bet, dude. How are your classes going? I'm good, thanks, glad to see you're well. Heck yeah. One of the boys tosses in slices of bread for toast, careless. I set out plates and sun. The tall son lathers butter on toast, but only his, I notice. Son, your brother, could you butter his toast? He reaches for peanut butter, fires me a white-hot glare. Morning flashes. How'd I stumble into shadow and crossfire? Please, might you pass a piece of toast down to your brother? Sure. His sarcasm slaps. I steady myself on the table's edge. Nothing could have braced the gut for what he did next. Shrapnel, ripping intestines. He whips a piece of toast into his brother's face. Why throw toast in your brother's face? His brother rages red, and I'm sucker punched, and it's toast. Yeah, but hold on. This sentence is a little tough. Doing good so far. I have to redo your labs because they need to be done in one sitting to get credit. It's kind of a bummer. You have to do your entire lab work in one sitting? Even remotely? All right, let me read that sentence again. His brother rages red, and I'm sucker punched, and it's toast. Yeah, but isn't it his heart? And I shake the head stunned, losing words, and the child I ripened with, bore down and birthed from the heart. He turns on a Tuesday, tears out a few more of the pulsing chunks, and where did I go so wrong? Yeah, it's weird. I agree with you, student. 100%. That's weird, man. Who cares about bringing the beauty in when all the inner rooms reek? It's toast and it's not toast, and I can't shrug it off because it's the profanity of it, the desecrating of one made in the image. I slam hands down on the table when I'd like to grab hold of his throat. Can I exchange the clay eyes shot red for the sacred seeing? Why? My mother anger could crack vases. He's smirking. Why would you throw that at him? I'm too shrill, too gaped, too blind, too gaped, too blind, white, angry. Straw comes in all shapes, and the back of a camel can be weak, and it's toast. And surely there's something behind it that I should seek out, but I don't even care. It's my own face that obscures the face of God. How can I help this son of mine see when I can't see? The parent must always self-parent first, self-preach before child teach, because who can bring peace unless they've held their own peace? Christ incarnated in the parent is the only hope of incarnating Christ in the child. Yet how do I admit people made in the image can make me blind to God, my own soul contorting, skewing all the faces? Why gouge out your own eyes when crusading for beauty? Pain drives us to the mad acts. I am mad. I'd like to will myself out of it, but the blood is pounding loud in my ears, and the suns slash at each other with the dagger eyes. Why? Can I just go back to the moon and the brazen glory? Wind and trees and sky wake me, and I'm Peter on the mountaintop, stirring to see the glory in all its God radiance, stammering out that it's good to be here. Let's build shelters and never depart. Luke 9:28-36. But there's always the descent from the mount, the meeting of the crowd, the complaining, the cursing. Obvious and immediate transfigurations exhilarate the faith, but the faithful can forget transfigurations, faces that once changed appearances. We betray who we know. Didn't Peter? From the Bible? Not me. Be clear? The book is referencing the Bible. How to do a contemplative here. Seeing the fullness of God with the 6 children 24/7, the 1 farm, the 600 sows, 800 piglets, only a whole lot of craziness. I hang my head. A boy pounds a plate with a clenched fist. The other blithely butters toast. How do I fix this? Them, me, in the messy. Jesus whispers, "What do you want?" And in the ugly, I cry. I want to see you in these faces. He speaks soft. Seek my face. I want to answer with David. My heart says to you, your face, Lord, do I seek. Psalms 27:8. But I'm desperate to grab someone, anyone, and shake hard. How do I have the holy vision in this mess? How do I see grace, give thanks, find joy in this sin-stinking place? The moon and the geese fly high, unsullied and wide-eyed, and I'm too twisted. A boy drives a plate hard back down on the table at his brother, and God tries to gently drive the words of Qasad from the knowing of my head to the bleeding of my heart. You would be very ashamed if you knew what the experiences you call setbacks, upheavals, pointless disturbances, and tedious annoyances really are. You would realize that your complaints about them are nothing more nor less than blasphemies, though that never occurs to you. Nothing happens to you except by the will of God, and yet God's beloved children curse it because they do not know it for what it is. A blasphemer? I pull out a chair from the table, sink down. The sunflower heads have turned low. The tall son is chewing his toast too loud at the other end of the table. What compels me to name these moments upheavals and annoyances instead of grace and gifts? Why deprive myself of joy's oxygen? The swiftness and darkness of the answer startle. Because you believe in the power of the pit. Really? I lay my head on the table. Do I really smother my own joy because I believe that anger achieves more than love? That Satan's way is more powerful, more practical, more fulfilling in my daily life than Jesus' way? Why else get angry? Isn't it because I think complaining, exasperation, resentment will pound me up into the full life I really want? When I choose, and it is a choice, to crush joy with bitterness, am I not purposely choosing to take the way of the Prince of Darkness? Choosing the angry way of Lucifer because I think it is more effective, more expedient than giving thanks. Blasphemer. Blasphemer. I rake my fingers through my hair. Who's the real sinner? At breakfast on Tuesday, the one with the stinking pig in the temple. Senses are impaired if they don't sense the spirit in somebody. Tell me, how do I tear open tear swollen eyelids to see through this for what it really is? If there are wolves in the woods, except to see wolves, and if there is God in this place, except to see God, can I be so audacious to expect to see God in these faces when I am the blasphemer who complains, who doesn't acknowledge this moment for who it is? Do you even care what he did to me first? Future man is standing now, hands stuffed hard into pockets, glowering. His stack of toast is growing cold. I should want to care, and I try to will myself, but I'm hard, so tired. I turn away. See, somehow I've got to see, got to feel. How did Jesus do it again? He turned his eyes, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave. Matthew 14:19. He looked up to heaven to see where this moment comes from. Always first the eyes, the focus. I can't leave crowds for mountaintop, daily blur for Walden Pond, but there's always the possibility of the singular vision. I remember, contemplative simplicity isn't a matter of circumstances, it's a matter of focus. One boy is turned, shaking his head, angry at the window, the world. The other is eating another slice of toast, defiant. I take a deep breath, say nothing to them, but I look up to heaven and I speak it to him here because there are wolves in the woods and there is God in this place, and I haven't done this before and it feels strange, but I give thanks aloud in a whisper. Father, thank you for these two sons. Thank you for here and now. Thank you that you don't leave us in our mess. My heart rate slows. Something hard inside softens, opens, and this thanks aloud feels mechanical. But I can feel the heart gears working. Thank you for toast. Thank you for cross grace from this anger, for the help of forgiveness and brothers and new mercies. I look for the ugly beautiful. count it as grace, transfigure the mess into joy with thanks, and Eucharistio. Leaves the paper, finds way to the eyes, lips. This is what Annie Dillard meant. Seeing is, of course, very much a matter of verbalization. Unless I call my attention to what passes before my eyes, I simply won't see it. It is, as Ruskin says, not merely unnoticed, but in the full, clear sense of the word, unseen. I have to say the word, describe what I'm seeing, but if I want to notice the lesser cataclysms of valley life, I have to maintain in my head a running description of the present. Okay. I speak the unseen into seeing, and I can feel it. The steady breathing in the rhythm of grace. Give thanks in, give thanks out. Give thanks in, give thanks out. The eyes focus. Apertures capturing beauty and ugliness. There's a doxology of praise that splits the domestic dark. The sun spreads out across the table, a cloth, and sunflowers ring light. I see it. All the world is window. No material is opaque. If we are willing to see people, circumstances, situations, relationships, all is transparent. All of the globe is but glass to God. And Eucharistio washes the glass. Eucharistio, wholesale worship, is redemptive work, wiping away the soot of days cindered. I look over at my son tearing away at toast. Why am I a habitual reductionist? Why do I reduce God in this moment to mere annoying frustration? Why do I reduce the greatness to the lesser instead of seeing the lesser, this mess, as reflecting the greatness? I have to learn how to see, to look through to the largeness behind all the smallness. Isn't he here? The humiliated son can stand it no more, pushes away from the table, pushes past his fuming brother, slams the door behind him. I exhale. I remember. Gratitude redeems, making us the realists. Mouth thanks to the heights, and see the real reality. Give thanks to keep the gaze on heaven. Glass to God. Eucharistio always precedes the miracle. Why do I have spiritual Alzheimer's? Always forgetting. I can feel it. The grip on my shoulders, and it's St. John who whispers it clear too, how to find God in this mess. We actually saw his glory, for out of his fullness, abundance, we have all received, all have a share, and we were all supplied with one grace after another, and spiritual blessing upon spiritual blessing, and even favor upon favor, and gift heaped upon gift. John chapter 1, 14 and 16. That's the mystery map to the deep seeing. We saw his glory because we have all received one grace after another. We have all received one grace after another, but we only recognize the glory of God in this moment when we wake to the one grace after another. If you want to be really alert to seeing Jesus' divine beauty, his glory, then make sure you tune your senses to see his grace. urges theologian John Piper. That's what his glory is full of, grace. That is what the full life is full of, what the God glory is full of. To see the glory, name the graces. Retune the impaired senses to sense the Spirit, to see the grace. Couldn't I do that anywhere? Why is it so hard? Practice. Practice. I run my hand across the table, gathering crumbs, and look carefully into the face of my son. His arms are stiff, his jaw set, his eyes near mine and drenched black blue like the day I first held him. This day, too, has bruising of its own. I glimpse who this moment really is, and I'm tender. The swine fleeces. I lay a hand on his shoulder, but he bristles, skin grown from his... I lay a hand on his shoulder, but he bristles, skin grown from his skin, this skin, and sick of this skin. Can you tell me more? I'm ready. I really do want to understand. I climb his eyes down into who he is. He's echo black. He jerks his shoulder to flip away my hand, steps back from my stench. We eye each other and mine beg and his ice. The lips I once traced after the lullabies, they turn surly and hard. You never see what he does. He leans into my face. Well, you sure do always see what I do. He wants to stare me down, shoot me down. This is old pus, infected wounds. This is not about toast. Is it ever all about now? His howl fills the face, his and mine, heart that once beat under mine. How did we get here? How did I fail you? How did I see things all wrong? I am Hagar, lost with boy, and the boy bangs the table with his fist, and I want to step back, flee. Who can witness the dying? But how can I leave him? Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. Genesis 21:19. Hagar and her boy were dying of thirst with a well less than a bow shot away. What insanity compels me to shrivel up when there's joy's water to be had here? All right, guys. Hey, what's up, Jay-Z? How are you doing, dude? I just realized that I did not have stream avatars up for any of this. Totally forgot. Let me get that pulled up here real quick. But how are you doing, Jay? Good to see you, dude. Are you going to switch your name on Twitch, or is it going to still be verified Jay-Z on Twitch as well? There we go, everybody. You're good. Happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. All right. I'm going to jump back into the chapter, dude, because we do have a lot to read and not that much time. Not that much time at all. But I'm glad to hear you're doing well, dude. I'm here for you. If you want to talk about anything, of course, just let me know. You're still trying to figure that out. What are you still trying to figure out? Oh, your name? Yeah. Because you changed it a couple different places. I don't know, man. I think having J in your name is keeping that consistency somehow is probably a good idea. In this wilderness, I keep circling back to this. I'm blind to joy's well every time I really don't want it. The well is always there, and I choose not to see it. Don't I really want joy? Don't I really want the fullest life? For all my yearning for joy, longing for joy, begging for joy, is the bald truth that I prefer the empty dark? Prefer drama? Why do I lunge for control instead of joy? Is it somehow more pervasively satisfying to flex control's muscle? Ah, power. Like Satan. Do I think Jesus' grace too impotent to give me the full life? Isn't that the only reason I don't always swill the joy? If the startling truth is that I don't really want joy, there's a far worse truth. If I am rejecting the joy that is hidden somewhere deep in this moment, am I not ultimately rejecting God? Trying to change it on Twitch, like you don't really know how to change it. You'd have to go into your settings, man. I could help you with it after stream. Hit me up on Discord. Be happy to help you with that. I think there's a waiting period in between times that you can change it, but I'm not sure. Whenever I am blind to joy as well, isn't it because I don't believe in God's care? That God cares enough about me to always offer me joyous water wherever I am, regardless of circumstance. But if I don't believe God cares, if I don't want or seek the joy He definitely offers somewhere in this moment, I don't want God. Blasphemer. In His presence is fullness of joy. Yeah, dude, absolutely. He is in this moment. I just don't know the exact setting, so I would have to look it up. Otherwise, I'd just be like, dude, go right here, do this right now. It's not a matter of like, yeah, I just would have to look it up myself. But you might be able to find it with a Google search. I would have to pull up my settings. The well is always here. God is always here, precisely because He does care. God faithfully provides water for His people everywhere. But how do you make yourself want joy? I look across at my son glaring me down. When you know you're haggard and you finally come to the end of yourself and all the water in your own canteen is gone, and you know that you and your son are going to die if you don't get some joy to the lips and down the parched throat, and now, when you can no longer stand to see those you love die all around you from your emptiness, when the emptiness is so dark you are driven to struggle again for joy, to cry for joy, to the joy God there, and you beg, sob, remember, you have to want to see the well before you can drink from it. You have to want to see joy, God in the moment. I cradle the sun's glare with the beholding eyes. Thank you, Lord, for that one strand that always curls near His ear. That scar He ripped across His cheek when He was 3. Those eyes sky like His father's. I am praying with the eyes wide open, and prayer becomes revelation. My eyes change, and He changes in them, and I remember, as G.K. Chesterton observes, how our perennial spiritual and psychological task is to look at things familiar until they become unfamiliar again. The unfamiliar becomes the real, and the real is only seen by the lovers, and I count Him as grace. I embrace now as love, and I know how lovers alone see the true. Love is not blind. Love is the holy vision. For a glancing moment, I am haggard healed, Hagar, who had spoken once before in a desert exile. Thereafter, Hagar, it's Hagar, isn't it? I've been mispronouncing this whole time. It's Hagar. Therefore, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" So that well was named Bir Lahoi Roi, which means well of the living one who sees me. Genesis 16:13 through 14. Hagar had known God sees, for she had met him before. Needy in the sands, yet when sent away the second time, Hagar had forgotten. She had laid her son down to die and couldn't see any well. In the domestic cloud of dust and family, I too can forget the one who sees me. But in Eucharistio, I remember. I cup hands and all the world is water. The well, it is still there. There is always a well. All is well. I choke out my son's name. His skin is transparent glass, and he stares long, brims, quavers, falls. And I cradle him, the boy man, flood over shoulders. You wear anger to hide all this sadness. I lay a hand on his back, whispering words. He pulls away, bites lip, quivering, dams it up. Where do you find happiness anymore? I ache for the once laughing child now struggling into his teens and the man skin. He stares out the window away, murmurs it to no one and anyone. I think I'm happy when I'm alone. I ache toward him, sitting by the window, and I am mother searching child's face, and I crack, I brim, I fall, and the tears scald. Oh, son. So thirsty. There is always a well. I remember a moon and the face of him who is the happiest of all, who wants us to be happiest in him. And oh, son, I know. This peopled life. Jacob wrestled with God and called the place Peniel, meaning God's face. This daily joy struggle, above all, is a Jacob wrestle to see God in the faces we face. How do I help my son so thirsty? Tell him what Eucharistio is doing. How I'm wrestling to name graces to see glory in the moment, graces to see glory in the faces. I could tell him stories of people like us, living the strain of everyday family life, who tried Eucharistio too, how we tried a 10-day Eucharistio experiment. 10 days of Eucharistio as a stress intervention, Eucharistio as a practical miracle, not on the mount, but in the faces and the crowd. Whenever we felt stress in relationships, we audibly gave thanks. I could tell him how one woman wrote, "I can feel the gratitude starting to soak into my soul. I'm becoming someone else, a new person, one that I like better than the old." Or how another voiced, "I'm learning to express gratitude before stress gets a chance to creep up in a lot of situations. I'm so thankful for what God has allowed our humble attempt at gratitude to work in our home. I just can't help but share how life-changing this gratitude experiment has been. That, in others' words, make me cry joy because it is my life story, learning slowly to not be so reactionary while inserting verbal gratitude into stressful situations is almost like being healed of mental blindness. I have begun to see again. My human experience is the sum of what the soul sees, and I see precisely what I attend to and what the eyes focus on. And what the eyes focus on is what the life is. See the well, son. The well. He's sitting now, turned toward the window, and fields and gnawing his lip. He's sitting now, turned toward the window and fields and gnawing his lip, trying to stem the hollow burn running down his cheeks, and I finger for words. I get it, you know? He doesn't turn, brushes his cheek with the back of his hand. What day when I wasn't looking, did his hand become like his father's, like a man's? He's weeping. My son is crying, and he's letting me in, sharing what it's like to be behind his eyes. Eucharistio gave me this. It was just toast, ugly toast. And he showed me how to give thanks for it. And then the miracle, a soft heart to let me hold his heart. I get how hard it is to live with the people and find the joy. I lower into the chair across from him. The babe has become me. His hair is darkening, only a few lighter strands now in his cowlick, like my cowlick, one I inherited from my father. You see it every day here, how I wrestle for joy, for seeing God in the faces. You see how I fail. I reach across the table for him, stretch my hand out to touch his knuckles cut from welding steel, from the miter saw, always creating, designing, dreaming. He turns slightly towards me. He lets me touch him. Oh, son, he is not alone. I am not alone. I want to hold him in my arms, make my skin his skin right again, return to Eden. I can't change our skin, maybe our eyes. I catch his. He doesn't look away. He lets the eyes hold him. Can I help you find the laughter again? I'm looking to. Can I help you find the laughter again? I'm looking to. My eyes beg. His thaw. He shifts, sighs. I almost miss his murmur. I've already tried giving thanks. Oh, you knew? I mean, you knew that giving thanks is the way to joy? Because Thanksgiving is the way we enter into God. I hear you doing it all the time. He slumps into the chair, lays his head on the table. The thrash for joy can be gory, loud. Did he see it on the counter too? The constant counting of gifts in the journal under the words ugly, beautiful, scratched across the page. Toppling closets, books, toys all over the floors. Boy joy. 2-month-old paint tape around trim. Someday soon. Mismatched socks. Lost library books. Apple cores. Dusty shelves. Splattered mirrors. Does he see me doing the hard Eucharistio, counting the ugly as grace, transfiguring the ugly into beauty with thanks? Does he see? And I pull my chair closer, gently squeeze his hand. It's just so hard, he mutters, closes his eyes. He knows my skin. I know his. Hard. Yeah, so hard. He lies with his eyes closed. I feel it too, boy of mine. Days, just close my eyes to it all. It's hard, Eucharistio. I am trying, really trying. Practice. The discipline of thanks only comes with practice. I know, son. So many days. So hard. I want to give up too, but give up the joy wrestle and I die. The practice of giving thanks, Eucharistio. This is the way we practice the presence of God. Stay present to His presence, and it is always a practice of the eyes. We don't have to change what we see, only the way we see. I whisper it to the son with the eyes closed. His chin trembles. Eyes leak tears. Oh, son, so hard. To see all this material world as transparent glass to God. To practice migrating 1,000 gifts on paper to 1,000 all eyes, to 1,000 smiles on lips. To transfigure the principle to the skin. But if we don't intentionally commit to the hard practice of seeing, don't we die in barren wilderness, anger, frustration, emptiness? I lay my hand on my son's cheek, his tear-wet cheek. We are of a piece. Son, you can't positive think your way out of negative feelings about your brother, about me, about people. Feelings work faster than thoughts. Blood runs faster than synapses. His eyelashes quiver. The only way to fight a feeling is with a feeling. I stroke his cheek slow. I move closer, hoping my words might revive. Feel things, and it's absolutely impossible to feel angry. We can only experience one emotion at a time, and we get to choose which emotion do we want to feel. He lies still, sometimes acknowledging what we really want is hardest of all. I wrap an arm around him, his back warm in sunlight, and I lay my head on his one broad shoulder. Under my face, his shoulder rises and falls, labored breaths, death, sadness. I must still try to give my son water. Can I tell you a story? I can feel his muscles relax. Since the day I first held him, I've told stories to this curl of ear. He and I, stories. This is our space. There was once a wrestler like us. His name was Jacob. And on a night when he was all alone, staring up at the stars in the dark, unable to sleep because he was scared to go meet his brother the next day, this brother that he had run away from because the brother had wanted to actually take his bare hands and kill him. Talk about taut family ties. Yo, what's up, Brandon? Esau. He's listening. His voice, hope in the sands. I smile into his shoulder, squeeze him tight. Yes, Esau. Jacob was terrified to meet his brother Esau, and all night long he wrestles hard with a man, flailing and thrashing and struggling. He grips his fingers deep into the leg, the torso of the man, and he utterly refuses to let go. Right till the sun embers kindle up the horizon. It's hard. He's exhausted. He's confused. I sit up, rub my son's back in slow, wide circles. The mid-morning sun's ray through the window are strengthening. Sun's rays through the window are strengthening. And when the man can't overpower or throw off Jacob, he touches the socket of Jacob's hip on the sinew of the thigh. The man breaks Jacob. Then day breaks, and he commands Jacob to let him go. I run my fingers up through his hair, that cowlick of mine. But Jacob, he refuses to let the man go. He doesn't even really know who the man is, can't clearly see his face, but he begs, I will not let you go until you bless me. And the man turns to Jacob and gives him a new name. Names him Israel, the God wrestler. Says to him, you've wrestled with God, and you've come through. All that while, Jacob hadn't known who he was wrestling. Just a man in the dark, a man he couldn't see. And in the black, all that night, it was the face of God over him that he was struggling against. God is behind the faces, son. Can we see it? Hey, thanks for the hug, bud. I appreciate it. My hand rests on his head and my chest hurts. And you know what Jacob named the place? Peniel. Means God's face. He said, I saw God face to face and lived to tell the story. I smile. But there's more to the story. There's always more to every story. His lips twitch a sad smile, and I see it. A half grin. A long time ago, a preacher named James H. McConkie asked a friend of his, Doctor, what is the exact significance of God's touching Jacob upon the sinew of his thigh? And the doctor told him, the sinew of the thigh is the strongest in the human body. A horse couldn't even tear it apart. These are the words I have never forgotten, what Preacher McConkie said. Ah, I see. The Lord has to break us down at the strongest part of our self-life because He can have His own way of blessing us. Is that a knight? Sir. Nice. I was like, what is that emote? Like this morning, breaking us down at the tough parts. And we see the blessing. I lean in close to my boy's ear. And when Jacob went out the next morning to meet that brother he dreaded, after the dark of the wrestle and being torn right apart in his strongest part by a man he didn't even know was God, do you know what he said? He looked into the face of his brother, that brother who had wanted to kill him, and he said, to see your face is like seeing the face of God. And that's Genesis 33:10. I rest my hand on his arm, arm so still. Wrestle with God, beg to see the blessings, and all faces become the face of God. See, sun, water. Do you see the water? Speaking of, my throat is very parched. Under my hand, resting on his arm, I can feel the drain of my wrestle. Of his wrestle, mine. I look into his face. His eyelids rest easy. His cheeks have dried. We've shaken and the blood has rushed, and we have felt the heat of the rage, the fire of the enemy, the flame of the true God's holiness, and we have done war. We've dug in our nails and we haven't let go until the blessings. We have practiced. We have extended. We have clung and we've been wrung out. We've have panted it and we've cupped palm to the heavens. Bless me. Bless me. I won't let go. Like Jacob, we ask, breathless and heaving, where he is, who he is, for his name here, the only real blessing. Please tell me your name. We have named the graces, and there found his name, glory. And in the face of man, we have seen the face of God. Then him, the blessing, God, joy water in the desert. But wells don't come without first begging to see the wells. Wells don't come without first splitting open hard earth, cracking back the lids. There's no seeing God face to face without first the ripping. Tear the thigh to open the eye. Wrench the socket of the hip, the tough grizzle of the heart, and heal the socket of the eye. It takes practice, wrenching practice, to break open the lids. But the secret to joy is to keep seeking God where we doubt he is. Son, he lifts his head. He opens his eyes and he looks into me, and this heart revives. My son, he blurs. There is always a well. All is well. You want to practice Eucharistio with me? The round of our eyes hold us liquid round, and within him I warm, and the love really cease. Yeah, Mom. He smiles slow. Yeah. We could practice things together. Grace eyes. My hand near his. The calm after the storm. The moon will rise, and those who limp know how to see. Who can live with hand wide open? Sun turns his hand open toward mine. I lay mine down gentle. The morning light makes halos of the bouquet of sunflowers, their faces all upturned. And that, my friends, is chapter 7. We're making really good time. It's about an hour per chapter. If I stay on task, it's almost exactly an hour per chapter. It's working out pretty well. Let me bump this out for a second so I can hydrate. We'll jump right into chapter 8. Okay. Chapter 8. How will he not also? That's the title of it. How will he not also? Question mark. Starts with the quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. All I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all I have not seen. All I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all I have not seen. By Ralph Waldo Emerson. God and I, we've long had trust issues. Outside the laundry room window, snow falls, the down of angels. The swing under the maple hangs still, the empty sandbox fills with white. And the lane down by the barn, up by the sheds, sleeps. Bread bakes in the oven. I can smell them. 5 earthy loaves in early winter. They'll be rising like wild mountains, rounded, brown, smooth. My bread rising up on the top rack of Marjorie Knight's bread pans. Same pans that baked the loaves she sliced up for me as a girl. My brother and I having biked the mile of gravel to her farm, up her long lane. I don't even know what that is, but thanks, buddy. Let's see, I lost my spot. How many years has it? Wait, no, I have biked the mile of gravel to her farm, up her long lane, through the dark of the tall spruce trees. How many years has she been gone now, too? I can still hear her laugh. The way all her words ran together like a stream of laughter. Her mountain town humped back, shuddering mild with each chuckling word. I stand in the laundry room, smelling bread, remembering, holding towels, watching snow fall. In the corner window pane, I can catch the hem of winter's quilt sloping down the barn. That barn housing our livestock. Our very livelihood seems more like a house of death to me, the death of dreams, and in an instant, the bottom of the stomach gives way and I'm all pit, and the towel stack teeters, falls to the floor. It's the market that really keeps falling, tumbling. The market prices of our pigs. And I'd felt weak when I read it in the farm paper last week, the dire prediction of family hog farming in Canada on the brink of extinction. It's true for us. Our once thriving lives on this farm teeter on the edge of collapse, and only a glimpse of that barn strikes rank fear into me, and what we've already lost directly out of pocket piles far higher than those snowdrifts blowing in around the barn. Every day we get up, every day we work hard, and every day we produce food that gouges deep out of us. How long until we are gone? I turn my back to the window. I am bent in the refolding of towels, refolding of the interior world. When the farmer comes into the laundry room on his way out of the house back to the barn, and the work we keep doing that's draining us dry, I can feel him watching me. A whisper of wind moans. And it's okay. Dare I brave his eyes? But he's not looking at my face, he's looking at my feet. He shakes his head. You, look at your toes. I glance down. They're all curled tight. I hadn't noticed. He lays his foot gentle on my curled ones. Needs my shoulders to stroke out all my worry. We're going to be okay out there at the barn, the pigs, the sows. We're going to make it through this. He wraps his arm around my shoulders, pulls me up into that strength. Relax. You trust. Just trust. Just trust. When the farm economy is imploding and all around us farming families are losing their land and being buried in loans and debts, us all just hanging on by the skin of teeth, I take a deep breath. Exhale. I lay a weak smile into his shoulders and all that faith. Anxiety has been my natural posture, my default stiffness, the way I curl my toes up, tight retreat, how I angle my jaw braced, chisel the brow with the lines of distrust. How I don't fold my hands in prayer, weld them into tight fists of control. Always control. Pseudo-power from the pit. How I refuse to relinquish worry. Maybe a mother won't forsake an identity. Do I hold worry close as this refuse of control? This pretense that I'm the one who will determine the course of events as I stir and churn and ruminate. Worry is the facade of taking action when prayer really is. And stressed, this pitched word that punctuates every conversation, is it really my attempt to prove how indispensable I am? Or is it more? Maybe discussing my deep fears as stress seems braver somehow. I curl my big toes, crush them hard into floorboards. I've breathed the air of angst, bent the bones with anxiety. I am 5 and lie in bed in dark night, eye drilling ceiling with the fierce determination. My sister's little hands, ones I held as she totted down the back walk, they're rotting in this dirt under a gravestone, and I don't have to close my eyes to see the forces of the composting. If I don't close eyes, I won't die. In our house, we don't talk of heaven. The dead bury the dead. Mama comes, shadow through the doorframe, and she sits and she sings and she rubs my feet. She strokes my hair. She coaxes sleep. I don't want to be dead in the dirt like Amy. Mama holds me. We rock and we rock. I am 7, and the nurse clatters in with a tray of pea soup, and I gag. Pea soup. But pea soup isn't acidic, doesn't scald the lining of the stomach wall. Dr. Munn stands in the hallway, tells Mama he thinks my fetal curled agony is an ulcer. I am 7. I'm 7 and in 2nd grade, and I have an ulcer. Is she a particularly anxious child? I can't hear Mama's murmurs. Only the fevered toddler with pneumonia whimpering in the crib by the big window looking out at the steepled church across the street. When I return to school after the week-long hospital stay, I sit in the desk behind Matthew Robotham, and I tap him on the shoulder and tell him straight out, "Can't tell me jokes anymore. Laughing makes my gut hurt too bad." In our house, we don't do too much of that either. Laugh. I'm 17, and in my hand, let it go, an empty jam jar, glass over concrete, and the shards rain across the garage floor. In the shattering, the tightness inside cracks, the pain drains. I finger for the sharpest edge, long and smooth, and lay it against the bare skin of the inner arm, and I cut long and watch it all run, salty, red, tear. I don't want to die, I just want to bleed out of me. The long years after my salvation and baptism at 16, I break and cut away the self-hatred, the anxiety, right at the wrist, right up the arm, slicing the flesh burns away pain, and the blood drops, the angst, it ebbs, flowing far out and away. I try to pray. I am 20 and waiting for the elevators in Vary Hall on a bitter cold day in February, when that first panic attack snaps me at jugular and I twist bits of the neck skin between fingers, tear for air. I'm wild for the door, claw through student swarm, the backpacks, the books, with a lit exit sign. Winter blasts my face and lungs gasp for air. Back in dorm, I sit in a rocking chair. By fourth floor window, open my Bible, I rock and rock. My mind is all scrambled and my heart won't stop slamming the chest wall the day the psychologist hands me a slip of her scribbled ink, a prescription on a square of white, lays her hand on my... Psychologist hands me a slip of her scribbled ink, a prescription on a square of white, lays her hand on my shoulder. It'll help with the anxiety attacks, the agoraphobia. Agoraphobia. Anxiety about being in places or situations from which escape might be difficult. It's my skin that is difficult to escape. I snap an elastic band around my wrist. For months, I swallow down the calm with the pills. I try to pray. Fear is like this piano wire cutting right round the wrists. Life shackled, cutting deep, and the hand spasm, fists of control. Fear keeps the life small. The music dies and the joy drains. I've lived the struggle. What if I opened the clenched hands wide to receive all that is? A life that receives all of God in this moment. How do you do that when the terror tears up your throat and you wear the burn scars of a raised past? I gotta go. I'll be back soon. Well, thanks, Brandon. You have a good one. Appreciate you, brother. I'm going to be live here for about another 40 minutes or so, depending on how long it takes me to finish this chapter and chat with whoever wants to chat. How did you do that when the terror, how do you do that when the terror tears up your heart, tears up your throat, and you wear the burn scars of a raised past? You're really worried, aren't you? His voice is soft. I catch that glance of his out the window, out to snow falling deep on the barn. Excuse me, that was her husband again. You're really worried, aren't you? His voice is soft. I catch that glance of his out the window, out to snow falling deep on the barn, that roof over our livestock, our dying livelihood. Might have to take a hydration break. That's the last of my water. It's all right. Yeah, I guess I am. I exhale. Farming families gathered this week in our community, facing bankruptcy, asking for prayer. Record low prices breaking generations of earth tillers. Herdsman. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out which tone is whose to make sure I read this next part right. Or whose voice is whose. Because it doesn't denote it very well. Is there gonna be enough? He tucks a lost strand behind my ear, and I whisper more of the honest. My voice races only a bit ahead of the wave of panic. Do I look in his eyes and let him see how scared I am? Maybe I'm just stressed. That word again. Stressed. Deep breath. Stress isn't only a joy stealer. The way we respond to it can be sin. I stand in the laundry room looking out at the barn, knowing that stress stands in direct opposition to what he directly, tenderly commands. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. John 14:1. I know an untroubled heart relaxes, trusts, leans assured into his ever dependable arms. Trust. It's the antithesis of stress. Oh, the joys of those who trust the Lord. Psalm 44. But how to learn trust like that? Can trust be conjured up simply by sheer will, on command? I've got to get this thing, what it means to trust, to gut believe in the good touch of God toward me, because it's true, and I can't fill with joy until I learn how to trust. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow. Romans 15:13. The full life, the one spilling joy and peace, happens only as I come to trust the caress of the lover who never burdens his children with shame or self-condemnation, but keeps stroking the fears with gentle grace. How can I trust when a troubled, joy-shriveled heart has pumped fear through the stiff veins of all my years? I exhale. I'm still all knotted. If I believe, then I must let go and trust. Why do I stress? Belief in God has to be more than mental assent, more than a cliched exercise in cognition. Even the demons believe. James 2:19. What is saving belief if it isn't the radical dare to wholly trust? I read it in one of the thick commentaries that 220 times that word pistio, I'm guessing the pronunciation by the way, is used in the New Testament, most often translated as belief. But it changes everything when I read that pistio ultimately means to put one's faith in, to trust. Belief is a verb, something that you do. Then the truth is that authentic saving belief must be also that very real everyday action of trusting. Then a true saving faith is a faith that gives thanks, a faith that sees God, a faith that deeply trusts. How would Eucharistio help me trust? I read the verse several times in the Amplified Bible on an afternoon while young hands work scales up and down the piano keys. Jesus replied, "This is the work, service that God asks of you, that you believe in the one whom he has sent, that you cleave to, trust, rely on, and have faith in his messenger." John 6:29. That's my daily work, the work God asks of me. To trust? The work I shirk. To trust to trust in the Son, to trust in the wisdom of this moment, to trust in now. And trust is that work, the work of trusting love, intentional and focused. Sometimes, too often, I don't want to muster the energy. Stress and anxiety seem easier to let a mind run wild with the worry than to exercise discipline, to rein her in, slip the blinders on, and train her to walk steady in certain assurance, not spooked by the specters looming ahead. Are stress and worry evidence of a soul too lazy, too undisciplined to keep gaze fixed on God, to stay in love? I don't like to ask these questions. Sweep out these corners where eyes glare from the shadows. But this I must ask, and I do out loud to the C scale being played with certainty. Isn't joy worth the effort of trust? Because I kid no one, stress brings no joy. In fact, stress may be far worse than that. He who believes who adheres to and trusts in and relies on the gospel and him who it sets forth will be saved. But he who does not believe, who does not adhere to and trust in and rely on the gospel and him whom it sets forth will be condemned. Mark 16:16, Amplified Version. Without trust in the good news of Jesus, without trust in the good news of God's saving work, even in this moment, without an active moment-by-moment trust in the good news of an all-sovereign, all-good God, how can we claim to fully believe? This is the trust I lack, to know that if disaster strikes, he carries me even there. Trust in the wholeness of the gospel, including this moment, good news too, and be saved. Choose stress, worry, anxiety, reject what God has given now, which is good news too. Refuse to trust and be condemned. I've just begun to feel around the outside edges of it. Here in crumbling economics, the fretfulness of parenting, the dizziness of the 21st century spin, just begun to realize it, and it catches in the throat. If authentic, saving belief is the act of trusting, then to choose stress is an act of disbelief, atheism. Anything less than gratitude and trust is practical atheism. I wince. Perhaps the opposite of faith is not doubt. Perhaps the opposite of faith is fear. To lack faith perhaps isn't as much as intellectual disbelief in the existence of God as fear and distrust that there is a good God. If I don't emotionally practically believe in the goodness of God, am I a believer? Don't the believers have to believe? Don't the saved have to trust the Savior? For yes, salvation from sin, but this too, the salvation from fear. True, certainly, there are organic, biological causes to anxiety, and there may certainly be underlying chemical issues that warrant medication. I have filled prescriptions. This has been right. All anxiety is not spiritual, and yet I know and haltingly confess much of the worry in my own life has been a failure to believe, a wariness to thank and trust the love hand of God. I make soup and I bake bread, and I know my supreme need is joy in God, and I know I can't experience deep joy in God until I deep trust in God. I shine sinks and polish through to the realization that trusting God is my most urgent need. If I deep trusted God in all of the facets of my life, wouldn't that deep heal my anxiety, my self-condemnation, my soul holes? The fear is suffocating, terrorizing, and I want the remedy, and it is trust. Trust is everything. If fear keeps our lives small, does a life that receives all of God in this moment grow large too? I light candles and I slice bread for dinner. Early Sunday morning, the farmer still works in the barn with his crew of diligent kids, but I am slotted to serve in the nursery for first service at the chapel. He and the 6 kids will rush in from the barn later, make it in time for the second service. I drive on ahead to the chapel, through a countryside of snow glimmering around barn islands, bastions of hope, and I count gifts. Do Eucharistio. Something always comes to fill the empty spaces, and this is what I've come to do with white space. I invite thanks. For this is his will. Thanks, the one thing he asks to be done in everything and always, and only because he knows what precedes the miracle. I speak the graces aloud that I might see them, feel them. Thank you, Lord, for sculptures of drifts, salvation of sinners, me, chief, hoarfrost flaking off tree limbs like the cold slipping off its necklace, all the clear sky descending into one black crow, steam rising off barns. The edge of everything is sight darkened. All that stands is a barn. I gaze at a barn up a lane, and the eyes don't dart away. Time slows with me, all here. It's the absence of the thing that startles. I feel no fear. I'm looking at barns, counting gifts, and I'm jarred. There is no choking angst. I am not anxious, and I breathe easy, and that worry child I've clung to, she deserts. I feel no fear, and it makes no sense. The market still teeters, the future of our livelihood still hangs precarious, and there are still no guarantees, no assurances, no change. Nothing has materially changed since yesterday's fears, last week's anxiety, but I have. I'm changing. I am changing, deep changing, and I am giving thanks, doing Eucharistio, and Eucharistio is Eureka, and I know why there's no fear. And why had I never seen it before? I can mark the spot on Road 178, right at the bridge, where the Epiphany blinds like snow. Thanks is what builds trust. I cross over a bridge. The Maitland River curls glassy, barns along both banks. I cross the bridge, and the river's a ribbon of silver slipped under the bridge like a thread passing through the eye of a needle. And in that moment, another strand of Eucharistio slips through the eye of my soul. Who trusts the bridge builder? Who trusts the bridge builder when you've seen your sister's crushed body bleed lifeless on gravel? When you wake to find the kitchen eerily empty again, her bed vacant again, mama long gone again, checked into a locked psychiatric ward again. Who trusts the bridge builder when you wake to snow on your blankets and winter blasting through cracked walls, and dinner for 4 is a 50-cent box of Kraft dinner rationed in half, and your dad tells you every single day that he just doesn't know how there's ever going to be enough? How do you even count on life when the hopes don't add up? Morning in late November, joy shimmers. The hopes don't have to add up. The blessings do. I want to slam on the brakes right then and there on the side of the road in Howick Township, the light blinding. Count blessings and discover who can be counted on. Isn't that what had been happening quite unexpectedly? This living a lifestyle of intentional gratitude became an unintentional test in the trustworthiness of God, and in counting blessings, I stumbled upon the way out of fear. Can God be counted on? Count blessings and find out how many of his bridges have already held. Wow, lost in thought? You're lost in thought, or I'm lost in thought? I'm reading the book. Can God be counted on? Count blessings and find out how many of his bridges have already held. Had I not trusted all these years because I had not counted? I glance back in the mirror to the concrete bridge, the one I've boldly driven straight across. Hey, how are you, Chris Keown? It's good to see you, brother. It's been a minute. How are you doing on this fine Sunday? Reading a book called 1,000 Gifts. We're in chapter 8. I've been reading chapter 2 chapters so far every Sunday. Every Sunday I go live from 1 to 3. Whatever I'm feeling compelled or led to share with others, trying to be there for others in any way that I can. This is part of that session where I've been reading this book because I think it's great. It's really well written. I'm enjoying reading it, and I think it speaks to a lot of people, or it can if you're willing to listen. All right. Had I not trusted all these years because I had not counted? I glance back in the mirror to the concrete bridge, the one I've boldly driven straight across without second thought, and I see truth reflecting back at me. Every time fear freezes and worry rise, every time I surrender to stress, aren't I advertising the unreliability of God? That I really don't believe? But if I'm grateful to the bridge builder for the crossing of 1,000,000 strong bridges, thankful for 1,000,000 faithful moments, my life speaks my beliefs. And I trust him again. I fearlessly cross the next bridge. I shake my head at the blinding wonder of it. Trust is the bridge from yesterday to tomorrow, built with planks of thanks. Remembering frames up gratitude. Gratitude lays out the planks of trust. I can walk the planks from knowing to unknown, and no, he holds. I could walk unafraid. Is that why the Israelites kept recounting their past to trust God for their future? Remembering is an act of thanksgiving, a way of thanksgiving. This turn of the heart over time's shoulder to see all the long way his arms have carried. Gratitude is the memory of the heart, writes Jean-Baptiste Massieu. But gratitude is not only the memories of our heart. Gratitude is a memory of God's heart. And to thank is to remember God. I had read it this morning as I prayed the Psalms. The psalmist giving thanks for the memories. Give thanks to the Lord of Lords. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to him who alone does mighty miracles. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to him who made the heavens so skillfully. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to him who placed the earth among the waters. His faithful love endures forever. Give thanks to him who made the heavenly light. His faithful love endures forever. Psalm 136, 3-7. In memory, the shape of God's yesterday heart emerges and assures of God's now heart and reassures of his sure beat tomorrow. And for the first time, I see why the Israelites are covenanted with God to be a people who remember with thanks. It is thanksgiving that shapes the theology of trust, and the Israelites bear witness, and I see. Isn't this what ultimately Christ asks of us in the Last Supper? One of the very last directives he offers to his disciples, the one of supreme import, but I too often neglect to remember. Do this in remembrance of me. remember and give thanks. This is the crux of Christianity, to remember and give thanks, Eucharistio. Why? Why is remembering and giving thanks the core of the Christ faith? Because remembering with thanks is what causes us to trust, to really believe. I once read the words, quote, "The foremost quality of a trusting disciple is gratefulness," end quote. And for months of naming blessings, these words had spurred me on. That gratitude was the preeminent attitude of the Christ follower. Think of it. That Eucharistio returned me to God, as non-Eucharistio had caused the fall from God. And of course, Eucharistio is at the heart of Christianity, but I had never seen, until a crossing of a bridge, that gratitude truly is the foremost quality of a believing disciple, precisely because gratitude is what births trust, the true belief. It's only when you live the prayer of thanksgiving that you live the power of trusting God. I had never known what the door of Eucharistio might lead me into, and all the fears it might lead me out of. Light glints bright in my mirrors, and in an empty pickup truck I hear voices scarred, the voices of people I have long loved, and their voices cry pain, and I honor them with the listening. When your memories have an old man groping for your crotch, hot foul breath on your face, and your skin crawls, give thanks. And an ultrasound screen stretches still, and you're sent home to wait for the uterine muscles to contract out the dead dreams? Or the woman you laid down with shared the naked and unashamed. She beds another man, hands you back the wedding albums, and says you never knew love. She never knew love for you. What then? Remember? Give thanks? For what? What if remembering doesn't kindle gratitude? What if remembering just leaves third-degree burns? The words sear. I know their voices, and I remember their faces, and the sun spills from window glass, slants gold across steering wheel. Eyes on the road, yellow line dashing like a line on hold. I wait. Just wait. In the wait, memories blister. And in the still, spirit comes, and he whispers a name. Christ. And I see a world through his lens. He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Romans 8:32. He gave us Jesus. Jesus gave him up for us all. If we have only one memory, isn't this one enough? Why is this the memory I most often take for granted? He cut open the flesh of the God-man and let the blood. He washed our grime with the bloody grace. He drove the iron ore through his own vein. Doesn't that memory alone suffice? Need there be anything more? If God didn't withhold from us his very own son, will God withhold anything we need? If trust must be earned, hasn't God unequivocally earned our trust with the bark on the raw wounds, the thorns pressed into the brow, your name on the cracked lips? How will he not also graciously give us all things he deems best and right. He's already given the incomprehensible, Christ, our crossbeam. The counting of all blessings is ultimately summed up in one. All gratitude is ultimately gratitude for Christ, all remembering and remembrance of him. For in him all things were created, are sustained, have their being. Thus, Christ is all there is to give thanks for. Christ is all there is to remember. To know how we can count on God, we count graces, but ultimately there is really only one. And the radical wonder of it stuns me happy, hushes me still. It's all Christ. Every moment, every event, every happening, it's all in Christ. And in Christ, we are always safe. And how will he not also, when bridges seem to give way? Yo, what's up, Inks? What's up, Inks? How are you? Hype, hype, hype. Appreciate you being here. When bridges seem to give way, we fall into Christ's safe arms. True bridge, and not into hopelessness. It is safe to trust. I do play video games, as a matter of fact, on Monday nights and Friday nights, and occasionally throughout the week. I haven't completely committed to my schedule this year, but in the past I've been going live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Friday nights. Playing a lot of Fortnite lately, and a little bit of Cold War. And lately off stream I've been playing Smite. Might end up streaming that at some point, we'll see. But how are you doing this fine Sunday? Hope you're fan-freaking-tastic. We can be too weak to go on, because his strength is made perfect in utter brokenness, and nail-pierced hands help up. It is safe to trust. We can give thanks in everything because there's a good God leading, working all things into good. It is safe to trust. The million bridges behind us may seem flattened to the earthly eye, but all bridges ultimately hold, fastened by nails. It is safe to trust. Each bridge I need cross from one moment to moment. The next is wholly safe, each leading us deeper into him and closer to home. And I hear that hurting voice again, her and me and all those aching voices I have known, and they still cry. There are moments that, as sure as I bruise, don't feel like good things have been given. What of all the memories where Christ seems absent, when the bridges shake and heaves, when how will he not also reads more like he will not. Trauma's storm can mask the Christ, and feelings can lie. I draw all the hurting voices close, and I touch their scars with a whisper. Sometimes we don't fully see that in Christ, because of Christ, through Christ. He does give us all things good until we have the perspective of years. In time, years, dust settles. In memory, ages, God emerges. Then, when we look back, we see God's back. Wasn't that too his way with Moses? Quote, when my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft in the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back. End quote. Exodus 33:22-23. Is that it? When it gets dark, it's only because God has tucked me in a cleft of the rock and covered me, protected with his hand? In the pitch, I feel like I'm falling, sense the bridge giving away. God long absent. In the dark, the bridge in my world shakes, cracking dreams, but maybe this is the true reality. It is in the dark that God is passing by. The bridge and our lives shake not because God has abandoned, but the exact opposite. God is passing by. God is in the tremors, dark in the holiest ground, the glory passing by. In the blackest, God is closest, at work forging his perfect and right will. Though it is black and we can't see, and our world seems to be free falling, and we feel utterly alone, Christ is most present to us. I-beam supporting an earthquake. Then he will remove his hand. Then we will look. Then when we look back and see his back, I look in my rearview mirror. The bridge I cross on the way to the chapel has fallen behind hills. I can still see in memory the river's winding light. Mirror on moving water. God reveals himself in rearview mirrors. And I have an inkling that there are times when we need to drive a long, long distance before we can look back and see God's back in the rearview mirror. Maybe sometimes about as far as heaven. That kind of distance. Then to turn and see his face. At the corner of Road 178 and Gory Line, turning north, winter sun now slips behind. Shadows of the bare maples drawn long over fields, ditches. The Tin Holt farm deep under snow to the south. Pigs sleeping under those roofs. I remember it right than passing pig farms. And that God would bring that story to memory now. How bread became a comfort when bombs fell in World War II, shattering earth and all that is within, and children wept for parents, cried for food. Refugee camps offered beds to huddling, dirty frames that could not furnish rest. Blast of days haunted pitch of nights. Nothing comforted shell-shocked, gaunt children. Rim feared the eyes, and the hearts pounded too loud, and the sleep fled. I know how nights blinked with the saucer eyes, the vigilant, terrified eyes. But somewhere in the dark, up between each narrow row of beds, a hand came to pull up the thin sheets, a hand to touch each bony shoulder and offer the fear-chased something to seize. A piece of bread. Dazed child hands took the bread, tucked in with bread. They gave thanks and rested on pillows of trust. The bread hushed the fears with assurance. The sun sets and he has provided, and you've ate. Tomorrow the sun will rise again. He will provide. You will eat bread again. Hands clutch bread, and finally it comes. The terrified sleep deep. I shake the head, sleeping with bread, a strange mental image. And yet, really, isn't that what that gratitude journal on the counter is? Opening the hand to receive the moments, trusting what is received to be grace, taking it as bread. Recount how we laughed today, how we cried today, and it too was grace. How he fed us. We ate, we filled, we swept up the crumbs, so he lays us down to sleep. Trust tucks in. He has blessed today. Will he not bless again tomorrow? Sleeping with bread may seem strange, but Jesus knew the wilder. He knew I'd only rest when I lived with bread in hand, when I eat manna. Eucharistio, remembering with thanks. This is the bread. We take the moments as bread and give thanks, and the thanks itself becomes bread. The thanks itself nourishes. Thanks feeds our trust. And it swells up in me, and I can't stop it, this surging sense of emancipation. Over a steering wheel in a white pickup, I can't help this glorious laugh. The laugh of the unafraid and the bold, the giddy hope of the bread carriers, the manna eaters. Until home in Promised Land and complete clarity, I'm a wanderer crossing bridges, wanderer eating manna, eating mystery. For really, as long as I live, travel, is there ever anything else to eat? I either take the what is it, manna with thanks, eat the mystery of the moment with trust, and am nourished another day, or refuse it and die. Jesus calls me to surrender, and there's nothing like releasing fears and falling into peace. It terrifies, true, but it exhilarates. This is what I've always wanted and never knew. This utter trust, this enlivening fall of surrender into the safe hands. There is no joy without trust. I can feel all the sinews releasing. Ah, Kat, MK, thank you so much. Appreciate you for dropping in. You are loved. You're all loved, and I appreciate you all being here. I can feel all the sinews releasing, the opening of the heart chambers, the unfurling of a life into one reverberating, exultant yes. For no matter how many promises God has made, they are yes in Christ. 2 Corinthians 1:20. Yes in Christ. To the enfleshed yes, who said yes to this moment, and yes to last year's illness, and yes to the cracks of my childhood, and yes to the nail, and yes to my name in the book of life. Hear me say yes. Not I'm worried, not I'm stressed out, not I'm anxious, not I'm too afraid. Hear me say thank you. Hear me say yes. Watch me live a life of yes. To all that was and is to come, the power of sin and death and fear sent from the enemy are forever ended, because we can trust in the bridge, even if it's caving, in God, even when it's black, in manna nourishment, even when we don't know what it is. The God whom we thank for fulfilling the promises of the past will fulfill his promises again. In Christ, the answer to the questions of every moment is always yes. The answer is always yes. You'd think I'd want to devour the bread. Epiphanies flicker, light here and gone. Come Monday morning, I forget. A child loses a book, has an exam, is late for practice. I stress over the trite, a phone call, what's for dinner, a deadline. And there are far longer, higher bridges. Where is a child's heart headed? Am I living God's best for his life or for this life, or am I bankrupting any legacy of faith? What misery lurks in the next 24 hours and the next? Stress can be an addiction, and worry can be our lunge for control. And we forget the answer to this moment is always yes, because of Christ. My baby is 5. She falls asleep in my arms after the close of dinner prayers, us still seated at the table. And I hold her long after the farmer has put the rest of the tribe to bed. Her curls damp and etched into my skin, and I don't move. Her face is turned towards mine, broad and open, eyelashes whisper of gold. I trace her lips, gentle curve of all things beautiful. The way her eyes dance today, soul light, the arch of her eyebrows, and that lyrical laugh. Heaven's echo that entirely undoes me. Her breath is warm on my face, all that is alive and warm and breathing inside of her now. Falling upon me, and I can't capture it, hold it. This, her life now, me, in this moment. she is leaving me. She's growing up and moving away from me. And she stirs, and I sweep back the crop of the golden ringlets. Stay, little one. Stay. Love's a deep wound, and what is a mother without a child? And why can't I hold on to now forever, and her here and me here? And why does time snatch away a heart I don't think mine can beat without? Why do we all have to grow old? Why do we have to keep saying goodbye? Again, I refuse to walk the bridge in tomorrow's unknowns, and I shame the bridge builder with my worries. My demand to just let me stay here or go back, but no, not to go on. And again, he comes to carry me, flailing and anxious. Am I always the atheist in arms, me, the believer who doesn't believe? And he soothes his own restless child in arms with the whisper, law of the universe that he's writing deep into this heart. Eucharistio always precedes the miracle, child. Eucharistio always precedes the miracle, child. And the chin trembles, and I stroke her cheek, her body leaning back against mine, and I tentatively open the hand to receive the gift of now. I name the now gifts, and I await miracle. That button knows. I touch a finger to its tip and smile. I gaze long, memorizing. I thought it was mesmerizing, but it's memorizing. That sprinkling bridge of freckles. I brush my finger across them. These I will remember. The way that singular curl spirals over her ear. The way it winds like silken staircase on and on and on. And I lean over, and the lips seal the delicate spot on her forehead with a long kiss. Her skin berry wine, and I feel him, his kiss of tender truth. All fear is but the notion that God's love ends. Do you think I end? That my bread warehouses are limited? That I will not be enough? But I am infinite, child. What can end in me? Can life end in me? Can happiness or peace or anything you need? Doesn't your Father always give you what you need? I am the bread of life, and my bread for you will never end. Fear thinks God is finite, and fear believes that there is not going to be enough. And hasn't counting 1,000 gifts, endlessly counting gifts, exposed the lie at the heart of all fears? In me, blessings never end, because my love for you never ends. If my goodness towards you ends, I will cease to exist, child. As long as there is a God in heaven, there is grace on earth, and I am the spilling God of the uncontainable, forever overflowing love, grace. I wrap a thread of her curls around a finger. I stare into the face conceived in love, reflecting love, and I feel his fall soft on me. I am child in his arms, and his breath falls warm upon my face, and what I feel for this daughter, he feels for me. And the gifts, all these gifts I keep counting, they are his love gifts, and they're slowly waking me up to the tenderest, fiercest love of all. Cradling this child, her eyelashes fluttering, her breath rising and falling in sure and steady rhythm. I know it in the pulsing, real, surest kind of way. Perfect love casts out all fear. His love had done that. The table still needs to be cleared, the bowls washed, the bread put away. Snow falls in the dark, white on a barn roof. I can't imagine what deeper layers of my wounds Eucharistio will gently peel back to heal. But I take her sleeping hand and trace the lines of her skin, and I keep on counting blessings, to keep on remembering, to keep on walking out into the unknown. I clutch soul bread and a perfect love that knows no end. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 8. And we did run it a little bit over as expected, but it's like nearly a chapter per hour. It works out really well in this format. I appreciate everybody that drops in for that. I do have a little bit of an exercise that we've been working through, but I'm not going to pull it up on stream today. I do highly recommend that you go check it out. You can find it in Discord. It is the clarity chart. I've been encouraging everybody to go through this weekly. It is in the Smile Zone channel on Discord. There's a couple other things there as well, but I highly recommend that you download it, print it off. We're going to keep working through it for about 9 more weeks and then see what people's thoughts are, see if it made an impact on them, talk about it here in another month and a half or so. But I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are awesome. I encourage you to spend some time with family, with friends, time to reflect, time to pause, time to rest up before you start your next week. You are loved beyond your wildest imagination, and I hope that you can appreciate that. I hope that you can listen to the words of Ann Voskamp and just really reflect on what that means to be grateful and thankful and trust. You are very welcome, Scout School. You are very welcome for everybody that dropped by. I appreciate you all, and I hope that you can enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Keep it real and keep it classy. I'll see you guys all on the flip side. I'll be live tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peace. See you guys later. Love y'all.